I saw it before the car door even clicked shut. My deck, the place I drink coffee and breathe, sliced clean down the middle like a birthday cake someone hated. Red letters glared across the half that was still standing blocky and loud, like a confession. No one asked for this patio crossed my line. I have the right. Karen Willow. I stood there with my overnight bag, hanging off my shoulder, that weird hot-cold wave under my skin. And I swear for a second, I thought my brain would reboot, and the boards would stitch themselves back together. But no, the cuts were surgical. The bench split like a jaw. A pergola post tilted like a broken rib. And all I could taste was varnish metal, and the kind of anger that makes your teeth hum. I put the coffee on the truck and started working the way I know how. Photos from every angle, close-ups of kerfs that were way too neat for a demolition blade. Pencil ticks that don't show up unless someone planned the cuts. Bolt holes that had been loosened, not torn, and that red paint bleeding into the grain like a staged crime scene. I called it in. Trespass and criminal property damage. I told dispatch, then I walked to the fence and rang her bell, because my better angels were still in Seattle. Her curtains twitched. The upstairs window cracked, and Karen's voice came through with that HOA chair cadence, like she was giving a lawn care tutorial. If you want to talk, do it through your lawyer, Ryan. Did you cut my deck? I asked, trying to hold my voice level. You encroached. You refused to fix it. The board acted for community safety. You don't have authority over my property. Take it up with the community, she said. And the window snapped shut like a gavel she didn't earn. Officer Green arrived, crouched by the cleanest cut, and muttered, "Someone knew what they were doing." He asked about cameras. I told him I'd pulled mine down when I upgraded last spring, but I might have a dusty drive somewhere. He gave me the incident number and a look that said, "Pace yourself." I didn't sleep much, but I did make a list because that's how I keep from drowning. Survey first paper. Next, keep the rage in the checklist. By noon, a tripod was in the yard, and Jonathan Lee, laser rig thermos coffee, the calm of a man who trusts math, was walking the line. He asked for the plats, the stormwater variance packet from 2 years ago, the pins by the Japanese maple, and the corner near the gate. 30 minutes later, he called out, "Edge of that deck is 7 inches inside your boundary, not over inside." I repeated it like a spell. 7 inches. He nodded. "If anyone's over your line, it's the hydrangea bed next door." He offered a drone overlay, and I said yes before he finished the sentence. While his files rendered, I pulled my paper trail like a rabbit out of a hat. The city's exemption certificate the previous owner had won, recorded and notarized, detaching my parcel from HOA jurisdiction. Not soft detached, not kinda detached, legally excised. You know that click you feel when the truth lands in the exact place it belongs. That. Karen hit send on a neighborhood newsletter that afternoon anyway. Subject line said, "Unapproved structure, finally removed for community safety," with a grainy photo of my wreckage and my name in bold, like I was a public hazard. And then the Facebook group lit up with people repeating her script, until Jeff posted, "Wait, I thought Ryan wasn't even in the HOA," and Susan wrote, "He's not." I was at the city meeting when his parcel was detached, and Karen replied with the phrase that tells you everything. "All property in this zone is under visual compliance. Visual compliance isn't a bylaw. It's a wish." I closed the tab because my blood pressure is not a community resource. Instead, I went back to the wood like a detective who speaks grain. Those weren't circular saw swirls. There was no scorch. The lines were too straight, the rhythm too quiet. And all at once I could feel a two-handled pull, saw in somebody's grip. Slow and surgical, the kind of tool you use when you're trying to leave as little noise as possible. That night, I found the old backup drive taped under a garage shelf because past me is paranoid, and I'm grateful for it now. I scrubbed through raccoons, rain me pressure washing in a hoodie, and then there it was. Friday, 03 a.m. Night vision green Hernieta windbreaker with a long canvas bag. A man behind her, carrying something wrapped in a moving blanket. The bag unzipping to a two-handled pull. Saw the blanket opening like a ceremony, a whisper fight, and then a line that made my jaw clench. "Start here. It'll look like he overbuilt again." And the guy grunted back. "This is your mess." "Aunt Karen, I'm not going to jail because you can't file a complaint like a normal human." Trevor, her nephew, the ex-contractor who bragged at the barbecue that he could take out a porch quietly in under an hour. He started cutting. The blade bowed, the body rocked, the kind of deliberate motion that comes from practice. And when the structure was wounded enough to fail, Karen shook the can. Sprayed her name like she was signing a painting, and they vanished into the dark. I copied the file to 2 drives, and the cloud, and my pulse, then drove it to the station. Detective Hill watched it rewound, watched again, and finally said, "We're past trespass. Way past. We'll loop in the DA." Next morning, a county windbreaker knocked on my gate. "Michael Feldman, Code Compliance. Anonymous report about hazardous material storage," he said, in a voice that had seen worse. We walked the yard, labeled stains in a locked bin irrigation compost. Last year's inspection report on my phone. He was about to leave when he crouched near the only bench slat. Still attached, reached under, and pulled out a zip bag with a yellow label and powder taped to the underside. He didn't panic, just slid it into an evidence sleeve like he'd done this 100 times, and said quietly, "This isn't how people store things. This is how people plant things. You have enemies, Mr. Blake." "Pull up a chair," I said, and my voice shook for the first time. The county lab lifted prints off the plastic. Detective Hill called 48 hours later. "Trevor Willow," he said. "Licensing violation from a few years back put him in the system. We're bringing Karen in for questioning." A cruiser idled across from her house that afternoon. She came out with a white blazer and a speech about civic duty. And no, she wasn't arrested that minute. But the neighborhood saw the equilibrium shift. Diane Carter from the HOA board knocked on my door that evening with the careful posture of someone who used to defend the wrong person. "What happened to your patio was inexcusable," she said. "There were no votes. She cites authority that doesn't exist. We're calling an emergency session." The clubhouse was packed, folding chairs, scraping people who had never cared about bylaws, holding printouts like seatbelts. Karen showed up late, sat dead center, like the room still belonged to her. And when Diane read the motion to suspend her pending investigation, Karen called it a witch hunt, said, "He's within our visibility zone. He affects our values," and Susan shot back, "Lady, you cut his deck in half. That affects our values, and if you want to know what a power shift sounds like, it's a room going quiet before a vote. Then, paper ballots sliding into a box. Then the number read out loud, 11-2 for suspension, and a low collective exhale. The next day, an unmarked manila envelope sat on my porch, like a bad idea. Inside, printed emails, forged complaint logs, fake timestamps, letters she wrote pretending to be board members. One line from 3 months ago that I could recite in my sleep now. "If Blake won't comply voluntarily, we'll make it happen. Clean. Quick. No one will know until it's done." I handed the stack to my attorney, Jenna Kaufman, who didn't do drama, she did receipts. We add fraud, she said. We add the HOA for negligent oversight, and we let the tape do the shouting. Courtrooms are colder than TV, which is probably a mercy, because heat makes lies melt, and I needed them solid. We walked the jury through the boring spine first. Platt's the exemption certificate, the survey showing 7 inches inside the drone overlay. Then Jenna played the night vision clip, and the air thinned. When Karen's outline appeared, Trevor unwrapped the saw, and red paint spelled her name like a signature on a felony. Detective Hill explained the planted bag, and the fingerprints, the EPA implications. If the stunt had stuck, and when Karen took the stand, she tried the savior script. I was protecting the neighborhood. His structure was a hazard. Until Jenna asked for written complaints and votes, and then handed her Article 9 to read out loud, and the words stubbornly refused to say what Karen had told everyone for years. And finally, Jenna put the forged logs on the screen, pointed at the initials, and asked, "Did you write this?" Karen stared at a point in the room where she still believed power was a mirror. The jury didn't take long. Liable for unlawful property destruction, trespass, criminal mischief, falsification, attempted evidence tampering, the HOA negligent for inaction, 9 months in county for Karen, 14 months. Probation, $195,000 in damages and fees. Public apology governance audit for the board, and when they led her away, she didn't look at me. She looked past all of us, like the room would vanish if she refused to see it. Yeah, that happened. The new deck went up in 6 days. Thicker beams, hidden steel plates under the bench slats, anchors set deep enough that a storm would have to ask permission. I bolted a small brushed steel plaque to the center beam. Nothing fancy, just words that belong here now. This is where your boundary ends. Neighbors stopped by with coffee with apologies, with that quiet look people get when they realize they enabled a bully because the bully sounded official. Karen's house went for sale with a crooked sign. Trevor disappeared from the rumor mill. The board rewrote bylaws with grown-ups in the room and retired the myth of visual compliance for good. Most evenings I sit on the new bench and let the sun lay a warm stripe across the wood. And I remember on purpose the pull saw's bow. The spray can hiss the way a paper trail can outlast a lie. The way boundaries are fences you can't see until someone cuts them in half. So tell me, did justice land where it should, or did the punishment miss the mark? Have you seen an HOA or any authority invent rules and dare people to challenge them? Where would you draw the line between protecting property values and abusing power? Drop your take in the comments. Tell me what you would have done, and if this hit a nerve. Like, share and send it to that one friend who always says trust me without ever showing the paperwork. You know what I mean.